Hello there. Welcome to the sixth day of December 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video broadcast exercise that I do every day at around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with various challenges and opportunities that I met. I take time to go over my creed, the 8 objectives, and one of the principles, and I prepare for the coming day. But first, hello to new subscribers to the channel. It's good to have you here. I'm Kurt, a 61-year-old retired American living here in the countryside of Japan with my wife. I am basically a gardener now, and a walker, and a dog dad. I was just thinking, every day I lift the book up and I say, which you can read for free at goingalone.org, which I should say because that's why the website's there. And I do appreciate the support of my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters. It's the donations that you provide that support that website and other activities. Thank you so much for that. But I really should start saying something else because, if I do die, which I expect to die soon, um, that's something else. I do talk about death reliably every day. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I talk about my own death. If that makes you uncomfortable, heads up for that. Since I do expect to die relatively soon, and by that I don't mean hyperbola. I don't. It's not. I'm not trying to say that to shock or cause out. I mean, you know, death comes when it does, and I like to be ready. That's what it's my first objective of my creed is to be always ready to die. As such, I anticipate death every day as coming. Tonight, I will die in my sleep, or maybe I'll die in the intermediary time between. In any case, it's going to happen soon, even if it doesn't happen until my 70s or 80s. It's happening soon. I should keep in mind other ways to find this because, after I'm dead, there's no one to continue to pay for the website. The website will go away. So if I keep telling people, which you can read for free at goingalone.org, eventually that won't be the case. What I should say instead is, if you want to I should say, this is how I should say, it, which you can read for free. Every day I go over my objectives and principles of my creed, which you can read for free in my book, goingalone.org, and you can read for free on the website, which you can read in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org, or you can order online. That's how I should simply say it, because it's going to pretty much always be available online. It's astonishing to me how many enough copies have been sold now that if you do a search for it, you can get it on Amazon, and there's always like 3 or 4 or 5 used bookstore sellers out there that are selling it as well. You can get it on the used book market now. So yeah, it's out there, and then it's been put into enough libraries. I've had readers buy it from me. I mean, buy it and then write to tell me that they received their copy, read it, and then donated it to their local library. And so it's there now too, where people just bought a second copy to put in the library. So, and I'll tell you, as a human being, we all want to live and express ourselves in some capacity in life. It's quite satisfying to know that my message will be left behind after I'm gone soon. But anyway, that's enough of a preamble. Let's get started. I'm going to I'm going to cover the last 24 hours, and then I'll talk about the creed, and then next 24 hours planning, and then get started. So, last 24 hours it was a calm. I keep notes every day, and I got a new notebook, this whole brand new notebook yesterday to take with me to America to record all the activities I'm going to be doing I'm going to America the day after tomorrow, uh, to tackle a horror show, which is one of the hashtag horror show, one of the objectives, one of the principles in my creed. Uh, hashtag life will not go well as well. So I decided to just get a fresh new notebook from Muji, 250 yen for this beautiful little notebook. And this would just be notes relative to my efforts to tackle the horror notebook, if you like. Boy, this is like only less than 5 minutes in, and I've already referred to my own death several times and horror, and it's quite a thing. But yesterday was actually quite a nice day, in spite of the horror, in spite of the impending death. It was my note says here, calm day of preparation. I did my last bit of preparation. There's a big suitcase sitting here right next to me. You can hear me tapping, half filled. I'm not going with very much. I plan to keep myself busy. So I might as well jump into it. So here's the thing. I'm going back to America to help a family member with a very, very difficult situation. A true horror show, indeed. And I'm going back for 3 weeks to show up like a fireman, like a neighbor with a bucket ready to put out a fire, right? The thing is, my help is not really wanted. And I'm I guess in a way I'm kind of forcing myself into it. Although I waited for an opening, right? I waited to be asked, and I've been asked, although reluctantly. And I'm going to go back now, and I'm gonna got my notebook, I got my creed, and I got my time. I'm fortunate that I'm retired, so I've got all the time in the world, and I'll go back. Well, not all the time in the world. I did just get a part-time job that's starting here in Japan in first week in January. So I don't have all the time in the world, so I got to get back. Um, but I'm going to go back and do that. Now, here's the thing: to show up, rolling up my sleeves. Now, I'm a man of action. I'm a man of consideration. I deliberate. I come up with plans. I strategize. I do all that stuff. That's how I wound up here, safely retired in this house, in this life in Japan. Was it took years of strategizing and effort to extricate myself from the very difficult life and yet very gainful and fruitful life that I was living in America to this life of peace here in Japan. Faced with the horror that's unfolding in the United States, I want to go back and do the same, but that's not my life to fix. I can only offer my help. And I know that I will quickly wear out my welcome if I go there and I try to be me for somebody else's life. Basically, I'm not welcome in that life. I'm basically going to be probably barely tolerated. And I will quickly, within 24 hours, wear out my welcome if I show up. So what I need to do is, and this is me planning it all out. I'm going to be there. I'm going to immediately put the ownership of the next few. I'm there for 21 days. The ownership of my time in the hands of this other person, and say, I'm here at your disposal. What's the plan? And if, as I expect, there will be no plan, then I'm going to get on, or there's very little plan, then I'm going to get on with my life while I'm there, hovering around, making my presence there. But I've got things I'm going to do. I've decided I didn't plan to go to America. I wasn't wanting to go to. I didn't want to go to America, but This is me using hashtag reason, hashtag limits, recognizing my true limits. I don't have control over this other person's life. I only have control over what I'm doing and my actions and my thoughts and my plans. So I'm using this and I'm saying, well, okay, well, I'm going to be in America for 3 weeks. If I'm needed, my 100% of my resources, my time, my endeavors are available to this other person to help out. If they push me away, then I'm going to carry on with my life. I've got things I want to do. These are every every copy of every book that I've written has at the end a recommended reading list, and there are 18 books that I recommend to read. Anyone that's interested in discovering more about the good life experience and creed, these are the 18. Well, there's only 16 of them up there. I'm missing two of the books from this list of 18. And namely, I'm missing the Torah, and I'm missing a hardbound edition of Cosmos by Carl Sagan, preferably the first edition. Uh, I'm going to be on a book quest to find those. So I'm going to wake up every day, and if I'm needed for this horror show, if I'm wanted, if I'm not pushed away, I will be there. If I am, then I'm going to make expeditions to used bookstores all around Los Angeles, looking for a nice copy of the Torah and a nice copy of first hardbound edition of Cosmos. I'm also going to be buying clothes. Clothes because that fit me well, and clothes for my new job, clothes for life here in Japan. I'm going to have a big old suitcase here. I'm going back with it I'm almost empty. It's just half full of gifts that I'm bringing back to everybody back in the States. And that same half will be filled up with gifts that I bring back to Japan from America. And the other half is going to be filled up with two books and maybe a few others and clothes and things for myself. Now, I'm not a gratuitous shopper, but I am going to have my own life fully charged and ready to go there. So it's not that I'm going to America to to shop ostensibly to help someone else. No, I'm going there to help, but I can only help if I'm allowed and wanted and able. I am able. Allowed and wanted, that's not in my hands. That's in someone else's control. If so, then so be it. If not, then I will shop. I've got a nice car with unlimited mileage, and I know the LA area like the back of my hand. I'm going to try to see friends, do stuff. What I'm trying not to do is to put on weight because I've got first week of school coming up, and I don't want to. I want to be able to fit into my chino pants. So yesterday I finished. It was a calm day of peace. I spent all morning in the garden, working in the bamboo forest, clipping the bamboo and cleaning up the bottom of the forest, letting it and working on the vines that were going upstairs above to the canopy of the forest for the kudzu. I want to get it so that by spring there's a nice airy breeze can pass through the bamboo forest to help to alleviate the mosquito population and just to create a more pleasant environment. And I had a really nice time with my wife and my sister-in-law. We had dinner last night. It was nice. And we had ice cream in the evening. It was a good day. I would say that as for of living and abiding my creed, boy, I was hard at it yesterday. Oh, and I had a really nice meeting with my friend Molly. We met at Starbucks and chatted and had a good time. My creed consists of 8 objectives and 35 principles. The objectives are number one, as I already said earlier in this video, to be always ready for death, having my affairs, relationships, and life's work in order. And they are. Number two is to make good and effective use of time so that I'm not wasting my days. Three, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Four, to cultivate good emotional reactions relative to my value. Well, no, to cultivate good emotional reactions, the relative to the values is number five. Number five is to perform good actions relative to my values. Number six is to recognize true limits and true opportunities. Seven is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And number eight is to maintain a sense of balance, gain and maintain a sense of balance in my life. The principle that I'm going to read today is the principle called agency and the great indifference. Agency and the great indifference. Now, by agency, I mean the agency that we as human beings or as life forms in general have over some component, some element of their lives, whether that be simply the local motion of our bodies or the cognizance of our circumstance and the decision making relative to our life. This really is helpful to a reminder to me because the person I'm going back to America to help, they still have agency over their own life, and it's up to them to decide if how they want to handle this horror show. Agency and the great indifference. The great indifference is the emptiness of the universe. Basically, my identification of a universe without God, an empty, uncaring, uh, mindless, seeming void. Agency and the great indifference. And then there's a quote by Charles Dickens. I looked at the stars, considered. Oh, gee, I need my glasses. I looked at the stars and considered how awful it would be for a man to turn his face up to them as he froze to death and see no help or pity in all the glittering multitude. Charles Dickens. Here's my writing. Every individual life is an agent, and the products of its living are its artifacts. Subtract these away, and what's left is the vast landscape of the great indifference, characterized by an incapacity to observe or maintain any thought or opinion towards well being, or utter lack of regard towards joy or suffering, a godless backdrop of unthinking, inanimate substance and time. The indifference is what pervades the universe. That's what the going alone part of my book is about, was going out to see if God exists and discovering that God apparently doesn't. And then recognizing that it's up to us, each of us, just like it is up to the person that I'm going back to see, to decide life or death, health or incapacity, strength or weakness. All right. As for today, well, I pretty much all packed. Suitcases here. All my documentation is ready to go. The airline tickets are made. The rental car is rented. I've contacted everybody that I is expecting to see. Everybody, the people that I know that I'm going to be there. So now it's just a matter of I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. Now it's just a matter of enjoying the weekend with my wife and my sister-in-law and my dog. Oh boy, am I going to miss my little dog, little Rudy here. I'm going to miss Ollie too, but he's really Yumiko's dog. But boy, I'm going to miss my little boy. Oh, my candle went out just a second. Oh, with regard to what I'm going to do about this going forward, well, I'm still going to do this. I always do this. I started off doing this in my head years ago, but I started making it on video. As for whether I'm going to do this, in fact, to abide this particular time slot every day, I would need to do this at 12:30 every day, lunchtime. So I'm going to do it if I can, and if I can't, then I won't. So those of you that have, join me regularly, if a day comes in the next after I leave in 2 day, in a day in 2 days, if you expect to see a notification that I'm going live at a particular time, if you're available to join me and you don't worry. It's just that you know I'm having lunch with somebody, or I'm doing something, or I'm driving to a bookstore, or I'm swimming in the ocean, whatever the case may be. I'm engaged with my 3 week journey in America, but I'll continue to I'll be back and I'll do this, but I might do it, but I might not. Let's just put it that. But I'll be back and do this when I get back. 3 comments. Hello, Michael. There's Tim. Hi, Tim. Good morning. Weather check for the UK at 8:35 p.m. is 7.2 degrees Celsius and 95% humidity. Sunny spells morning, wild wind in the willows afternoon, and evening with torrential rain. Wow, you've had quite the weather the last couple of days and more than a week in the UK there, Tim. As for me, I can't even see it. A thermometer fell over again, so it's cold though. Inside here, it appears to be 10 degrees inside the room right here. Evelyn says, I'm never giving up my copy of Going Alone until I die. That's it. Thank you, Evelyn. I appreciate that. Evelyn, and good morning to you. Good evening to you over there in Greece, Athens. Evelyn says, hi, Evelyn. Hi, Kurt, Michael. Uh, uh, and no specific weather details today from Athens, but still wet and stormy from Byron. Wet and stormy. Byron, the author? Tim says hello to Evelyn. Erica, hi Erica. Erica says hi to Kurt. Hi all. It's negative 2.8 Celsius today. Ooh, that's cold. Erica says wishing you safe travels, Kurt. Thank you. Evelyn says it seems like you have gotten each case scenario worked out. Glad you are also going to take care of yourself while trying to help organize the horror show, if possible. Not easy. Well, you know, I if I don't, I'm going to get sucked into it, right? I mean, if I it's like being a fireman. You have to go in with the proper gear, preparation, and readiness, and know when to extract oneself from the blaze. Right. So I'm going to keep a separate space for myself. I'll be staying with the person in question, but I'm going to keep a separate space, and I have my rental car, and I'll have things to do throughout the day. Whereas if to maintain my own trajectory and my own inertia and my own life, and also hopefully maybe I can also be, if if this isn't too strong a word, as an example of to get the hell out of the horror show, because this is a horror show from which this person in my life could extricate themselves at this point if they so desire, but so many people don't. They just go down with the ship. I'm reminded over and over again of that conversation. I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but it's a very fitting and apt observation with my. But in Going Alone, I reference my professor David Bixler in the first chapter, who was the man who introduced me to biology and science and set me on the life of the empirical way of viewing. Although he wound up being an Episcopalian, that's not Episcopalian, a Church of England priest in the end of all things. He's currently a priest in the desert in Arizona. Anyway, he and I were standing at the side of a river, of a dry lake bed in the California desert, and right at the periphery where the playa, the white sands meet up with the creosote, with the sage, with the salt brush, and I noticed some holes right at the edge there. And I asked him what lived in those holes, and he says there's a special type of a desert, mouse that lives in that hole. And I asked him because I know that there's flash floods come and these dry lakes fill up with water. I mean, I've seen them; they'll become ephemeral lakes for a day. 6 inches, a foot and a half deep, but big, giant lakes. And I said, what happens, Professor Bixler, when the rain comes and the lake fills up with water and the rising water creeps up and starts to sink into the burrow where the mouse lives? I mean, do they get out and then seek higher ground? And he just looked at me and he said, no, they just drown. That has stuck in my head all of my life since he said that. And I think about it when I see people like the people that the person that I'm going to see now, and so many others who simply get the horror rises into their lives. The horror comes into their lives and they don't get out. They just drown. I'm thinking of diabetics who I was talking to Jim yesterday, my friend Jim, and he was telling me about his friend who was a diabetic. Jim, by whether has successfully extricated himself from diabetes. He took it really seriously, and has turned it around. He doesn't even have to take the medication anymore. But he was telling me about someone else in the diabetic community that he's a part of who lost some toes and then lost a leg and then died. And you just some people just don't get themselves out of the situation. They just it's like they're like that mouse. The waters rise, the water starts to trickle into the burrow, and they just wait down there for the water to kill them. Well, I'll I'm going down in the burrow. The water's trickling in. I'm going down in the burrow, but I'm not going to drown down there. And it's not that I don't care. It's just that, for one, I don't, I'm not going to live that way, right? I'll show up for 3 weeks. I'll do what I can. I have a fresh notebook full, and I've been doing tons of research ever since this whole situation began. I've knowledge. I've created a custom AI called the Situation GPT that's all trained up on this stuff. It knows everything. And between the AI and I and my notebook and my interaction with my family member, I'm going to attempt to come up with some plans to help them get out of this. But they've got to do it. If they don't want to do it, then I can't do it for them. And all I can do is move forward. Boy, I went on and off on that, didn't I? Yeah, and Evelyn, I'm thinking about you because I know you're going back to your horror show as well. Evelyn, if you haven't tried it already, if you can, if you can if you use Chat GPT, you can create a custom GPT. By the way, I have one. I should really publish it. I created this custom GPT called The Good Life, and I trained Chat GPT on the Good Life Creed, and it's available out there. It's called, and it is fantastic. I've been using it for a couple of months now, and I haven't released it because I wanted to use it in my life and see how it is fantastic. I cannot believe how expertly ChatGPT now understands the good life, my objectives and principles. It took a couple of weeks of training to get it to that point, but it's available for anybody to use. I mean, you can't just spin up any custom GPT, ChatGPT. You need to use the Good Life GPT. And Evelyn, if anybody wants to use it, just reach out to me, dinnerbytheriver at gmail.com, and I'll send you a link to the GPT. I made it available to the world. And I'm just, I've been using it for weeks now. I've created so you take that Good Life GPT and instantiate out of that a situation GPT that's trained on the Good Life. And then I tuned that GPT, renamed it the situation. And so it's helping me to plan out my engagement when I go back to America. But it's trained, and sometimes I forget how well it's trained. And it reminds me sometimes. It says, here's what we're going to do, Kurt. And by the way, this is an alignment with objective number 7 or whatever. And I go, oh wow, wow! You're a real stoic AI. That's one of the things. Oh, that's one of the things maybe I'll work on when I'm in America is the formal release of that GPT onto the world. What I need to do is I need to put a link. I need to link to it on the Going Alone website right at the top so you can read the book or engage with the GPT. That's what I'll do. I'm going to do that. Anyway, I'm going on and on. I'm going to wrap this up soon because I'm going up to the top of the mountain. I've been doing this for like a month now. I've been a friend of mine, a Canadian here that lives in the community here, relatively close. He and I were friends before, and he invited me into his little circle of friends. Who there's a Russian guy and a couple of Japanese people, and we all meet at the top of the mountain and have warm cans of coffee and sit around and talk like men do about men stuff, and it's fun. I mean, it's really, 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 really fun. And I do that every weekend now. This morning is the morning, so I need to finish this and get up there. I take Rudy with me, and he sits in my lap all warm, or I put him in the car and let the heater run. Evelyn says hi to Erica. Erica says hi to Ms. Evelyn, and Evelyn says hi to Tim. And there's a sorry there. I don't know what the sorry is for. Uh, Neil PTY says hi. Hello, Neil PTY. It's nice to see you. Hi, all in Kanazawa and all in Kanazawa and cold here. Week 5 of my retirement. Well, congratulations. Woohoo! Welcome to the club. In Kanazawa, no less. Wow. Tim says, I don't think the rain is ever going to stop. Forecast rain all day, Saturday and Sunday, drying on Monday, stormy again on Tuesday. My long walks have been diminishing a little this week. Have you got your Wellingtons? I'm waiting for a chance. Am I using that right? What do you call them? Or do you call them rubbers? Is that what you call them for your rain boots? Or Wellington's rain boots? I think rubbers are. Rubbers have a very different, just to say I'm putting on my rubber in America has a totally different meaning. I hope I'm using the term rubber right for the British context. Evelyn says Byron is the name of the storm. Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. That's right. Storm. We care experiencing here in Greece. Flash floods here too. Schools closed today. Wow, wow, wow. Gee, that's right. I'm thinking Byron. I was thinking Lord Byron for some reason. It was coming up in my studies this week. I do study a lot. I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time studying my books. Still reading. Can you believe I've been reading Moby Dick for like a year? Turns out it's quite the tome. Stay well there. It sounds like between you and Tim. Tim, is it Byron that's getting you too way up there in England? Could that one storm be affecting that largest swath of the European zone? I don't imagine. Helen says, sounds like Bob and his exactly. It is exactly like Bob and his wife. Eh, Precisely. Bob walking by every day with his fast food and he had a thing there of the what would you call it? You get those at the they would it's the most awful thing that the Western civilization has ever created. It's I think it's a McFlurry. Yes, he would walk by with his McDonald's and his McFlurries and his swollen legs and go to sit down and wait to die. And I would watch him do that over on it. Sure enough, he died. Exactly like Bob. And what do you do about that, right? I mean, except watch him. I guess you can't, I mean, you can't, Ruby says, safe travels. You know that image of the woman enshrouded in a blue mantle you have in your room? That's Our Lady of Guadalupe. Yes, Our Lady of Guadalupe. She's right. I took a picture of her when I first bought the place, and I asked ChatGPT, who is this? I knew it was Catholic, but it told me all about Our Lady of Guadalupe. She's still there. She's on the other side of this door. And Yumiko always remarks that it freaks the crap out of her every morning because she comes around because our bedroom's the other side. And if my door is closed, she's like, it's become kind of a routine. I decided not to get rid of her. I just put her on the other side of the door. I'll keep her. Tim says, sometimes in life you can only do as much as you can to the best of your ability, but in the knowledge you tried your best, and to accept that others have to help themselves as best they can. Absolutely. Hallelujah, Tim. I'm sure I'm hearing a hallelujah from Evelyn over there as well. Tim says, LOL, we call the wellies. Oh, wellies. So Wellingtons are wellies? I think I got that from Gromit. What was it? What was that, that claymation or that animation, something Gromit and something, the cheese, right? Didn't he like put on his wellies? I always picture the Queen. Wasn't that in the image of the Queen? Up there in what's her castle or her castle up in Scotland that she goes to? And she would run around in her Range Rover, in her looking very much like a British grandmother with her cap on, with her scarf over her head and her wellies on. I miss her. Ruby says, Ruby says, am I not here? I who have the honor to be your mother. Are you not under my protection? Are you not in the hollow of my mantle, in the crossing of my arms? Let nothing else worry you, Our Lady. I'm sure that's very comforting words for those who are of that persuasion. Wallace and Gromit. That's right. Thank you, Rubies. And Tim says, I think Byron is a separate weather system. Our weather is coming up in droves from the South Atlantic with warmer winds. Tim, are you starting to see any change to the circumstance of the weather? I hear that there's some potential great catastrophic changes potentially in the works, namely uh, if the if climate change impacts the monsoons as they and their annual dumping of rain in countries like Bangladesh and parts of the Indian subcontinent. Uh, I guess Thailand, all that area up there. We'll see. That could be catastrophic. Penguin says, "LOL, Ballamore in Scotland, right? The royal family are a big endorsement of Welly's royal seal of approval. I just love seeing the Queen like that. Traipsing through, expecting the horses. I was a big fan I was a fan of the Queen. I mean, I mean, who wouldn't be? I mean, okay, whatever you think of the royals, she seemed like a woman who just had you know grace and dignity and responsibility, and she seemed to carry that responsibility very well. I mean, she was a human. I'm sure she was very imperfect, just like all of us. But I mean, I really admire anybody that can do their duty. You know what I mean? And I think that's a very British thing. To do your duty, right? It's a human thing, right? But I think the British really wrap themselves around that. The Japanese do too, of course. Americans in our own way as well. I mean, everybody, we're humans. Humans embrace duty. Well, anyway, I've gone on and on and on. Anything else? I think that's all. I think I'll wrap up. So if you didn't hear earlier, my plan, I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. The last time I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this for the next couple of days so that I get the message out for those that show up regularly. I'm going to do this on Monday morning. That'll be the last time that I definitely will do this. When I get to America, to keep at the same time will be 12:30 every day, lunchtime. If I'm available, I'll do that. I'm still going to do this in my head, but whether I do this live like this will depend on circumstance, availability, etc. I'll try to. If you don't see me, it's not because I've given it up. It's just that I'm off on a mission, right? When I get back to Japan, for sure, I'll keep it up, but we'll see what happens. She was a wonderful person, regardless of being Well, I think you just summed up the British the British sentiment as I imagined it, perfect in one sentence there perfectly, Tim. Wow, she was a wonderful person, regardless of being a royal. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. And it was especially nice to see some folks that we haven't seen too much of. Ruby's 200, welcome, and uh, also there's Neil T2Y. Congratulations on your retirement. It's good to see the two of you. I wish everybody all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. And tonight, I'll die in my sleep. Bye bye.